Hi.
All right, welcome everyone to the Culinary Now podcast. My name is Matt Britt,
And I'm Jamie Schick.
and today we are joined by, I would say, a good friend, longtime friend, Dan Lessem, who is the corporate chef and director of educational partnerships for Rationale USA. Now, Dan, I've known you for, I want to say, almost a decade now, which is kind of scary. It means we're both old, but in the same sense, I don't know in that 10 years if I've ever asked you your story. So I know that you went to JWU, then you got a master's degree somewhere else, but then somehow you landed in this sort of corporate chef educator role. Can you talk us through how you found Rationale and what Rationale is?
Yes, thank you for having me, Matt. So, yes, for sure. I work with Rationale, and Rationale is the inventor of combi, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But, you know, actually, I first learned about Rationale as a customer operator, and I was working as a product development chef for a concept called Pollo Tropical down in Miami, and they had multiple locations all around South Florida and the Caribbean, franchisees and so on. And when you're working with a multi-unit operator, the goal is consistency, right? You want to have a replicatable experience when you go from one location to another as a customer. And that's kind of the expectation. And so, I was working with them as an operator at first, in doing some marketing with them, and then as a product development chef. And the goal was to figure out how to design the next generation of professional kitchen, because the elements were changing in the macroeconomic surrounds. For example, when this concept was designed in the 80s, real estate was much less expensive. Utilities were much less expensive. And so building a big footprint restaurant with 22, 24 linear foot of grill under a hood was no big deal. But then as the economics changed, it became more and more difficult. And when you're grilling 400 live spatchcock marinated chickens slowly over an open flame a day, it becomes quite a bit of a challenge to expand, because the space that's needed to do that is very cost prohibitive, especially when you're running a QSR, a quick service restaurant, where your profit margins are smaller than, say, a full, a fine dining or family dining restaurant. So that's how I got to know Rationale, is because I was on the hunt for solutions. And I did a bunch of product and process testing with a lot of combi manufacturers. I would literally marinate our signature chicken at the time and FedEx the chicken in temperature controlled containers with dry ice to different manufacturers, and then we would test cook, because it was around that time, I would say like the mid 2000s, where grilling was starting to become more and more popular in combi ovens, because the capability of removing humidity, as well as, they were originally developed to add humidity, and but the capability of them being able to remove humidity started to be developed into the combis. So Rationale was the best performing combi when I was testing with combi manufacturers. It had the quickest recovery time. It had an integrated fat grease management system, the integrated fat drain. So for whole birds, rendering bone-in chicken, as you might imagine, there's a lot, and it has to be dealt with in a safe manner. So we did a lot of product and process testing together. I brought Rationale in. And then over about the course of a year and a half, I learned the technology quite extensively as I was doing development work. And Rationale took notice, and they invited me to become certified. So I became a Rationale certified chef, which means that I had an advanced knowledge in their technology and that I could go and train others on how to utilize it and also to represent Rationale at different trade events and things like that. So that was neat. And it actually became a springboard for me, Matt, to transition into teaching. So you know that I have a bit of a background teaching at Johnson & Wales. And I did that at the Miami campus between 2011 and 2016. And it was a great time to get involved in education. I was able to bring a lot of the experiences I was learning about technology and other projects that I was involved with in the consulting world with me into the classroom and share that with students. And it was there at Johnson & Wales in Miami that the idea came to me for spearheading the Partner in Education program for Rationale, because I was a beneficiary of learning all about technology from Rationale's area chefs. And, Rationale did a great job of training its customers, training its constituents, its sales teams. But I saw a need to provide additional resources for instructors so that they would have a comfort and a confidence level working with new technology and inspiring students to use new technology creatively in the kitchen. So we put together the Partner in Education program and pitched that to Rationale. And at that time, they were building their inaugural culinary team, their inaugural corporate chef team here in the United States. Before that, there was a national corporate chef, let's say, for all of the different countries that Rationale operated in, but there wasn't like a culinary team per se. But it was around that time that there was enough growth and demand for combis in North America, and a culinary team was being developed. So I was fortunate enough to be invited to be a part of the inaugural corporate chef team at Rationale USA, and I was able to put together the Partner in Education program for Rationale as a member of that team, which I've been grateful for that opportunity ever since. And the program has grown exponentially, as you know.
Well, thank you for that background, because I know I've seen you around campus and I never really knew all of that. So that's really cool. And to know that you have a background in education kind of makes me like, it kind of flows into my next question, is that I know your job now is educating people about how to use a Rationale and what they can do. And I know I was first introduced to them in like 2008, 2009. And I thought it was like the coolest thing, because it would we would steam lobsters in it. We would steam our bread in it. It would like proof and bake our bread. It was like so cool. But I know that the technology has changed over the years. And do you find that chefs are hesitant to embrace this type of technology in an oven, or do they welcome all of the cool things that Rationales can do for us?
That's a great question. And I think before I provide some context there, I'd like to talk a little bit about what a combi oven actually is, and maybe a little bit about the history, because I think it's
Sure.
to really understand the nuance of people's journey with technology and the advancement of technology in their own careers. I think folks need to first understand, well, in this particular case, like, what are we talking about? So Rationale did invent the combi oven, and that happened, say, 1973. And it was Siegfried Meister who invented the Rationale, the first combi. He was not a chef, Jamie. He was an engineer. And so he was very interested in coming up with solutions for industry, but he was doing, he was doing business with a lot of restaurateurs, custom stainless, and other types of fabrication. And through talking with chefs and operators, saw a need, because he would constantly hear that it was difficult to maintain moisture in a protein when it was roasted, say at a in a normal oven. And so remember, mind of an engineer, he thought, well, what if I take a steam generator and I put it into a convection oven so that I can control the humidity inside the cooking cabinet? That was like, light bulb effect, right? I mean, it was really, if you think about it, quite a simple idea. Hey, let's just generate humidity and some steam in here, okay? But that idea completely transformed the industry. So now we're talking about like 51 years later. And one of the things I could say, that I really like about Rational is one of the reasons why I work with them and for them is because they do a good job of reinvesting into R&D and continuing to develop the technology to remain best in class. Of course, there's a lot of competitors out there now, but essentially the idea is simple, right? It's based on the laws of physics. Also, some of the benefits, like why do chefs that embrace combi like working with it? Let's talk about the people who do enjoy working with it and are comfortable with it and are familiar with it. The main reason for their quick adaption is basically because you get a higher quality product. You're able to control the humidity level more inside the cooking cabinet. The laws of physics say that steam cooks 7 times faster than dry air, right? And not to be too geeky about it, but like if you take 5 pounds of carrots, 1-inch cube, and you steam them at boiling point, which is where we generate steam, 212 or 100 Celsius. And then you take an equivalent 5 pounds of carrots, same 1-inch cube, and you put them in a convection oven at the same temperature, 212. Now we're just comparing moist heat, 100% humidity, versus dry heat at the same constant temperature. Obviously, the steam is going to cook much, much faster than the dry heat at an equivalent temperature. So that's one of the amazing benefits, right? And if you think about that, what you actually have is in one unit, one contraption, one box, one element, you have a multifunctional cooking appliance. You have steam, you have convection, you can dehydrate, you can grill, and you can do a lot of different things. So right now, like, forget about education for a minute. Even in industry, there's a design trend. Kitchen designers, consultants, architects, operators are working collaboratively to design more multifunctional kitchens where the specific appliances that are underneath the hood and the HVAC system are designed to be multifunctional. They do more than one thing. And it's because of what I said moments ago. The cost of utilities are higher and the cost of real estate is higher. So if you're occupying a very valuable place in the kitchen, which is, as you know, the most expensive spot in the kitchen is under the HVAC system, then that thing that's sitting in that spot better do more than just one function. And so the combi oven, invented back in 1973 by Rational, was one of the first multifunctional cooking appliances. Now there's all kinds out there. And so it's really an interesting time. And so I would say also, my focus is on educators. So the folks who I'm trying to help understand like what the new technology is and how it works and what can you do with it, is the group of instructors and faculty members that are influencing our next generation of industry leaders. And I want to help them adapt to working with new technology. Many of them embrace it already and really don't need much help from me, and they want to learn. And there's always a quest for knowledge, especially among educators. But of course, some people may need help understanding the how or the why. Like, why does it do it this way? Or how does it do it this way? Or like, how do I get to this point using this piece of equipment or something like that? And that's what we help them with. We help them get to a deeper understanding. But let me tell you this. You know, at one point as human beings, we learned how to simply manipulate fire. And that was the beginning of cooking as we know it today. With heat, right? So I view sort of the modern multifunctional combi cooking appliances as like simply human beings' new evolution for harnessing fire, right? And heat simply to cook, and maybe simply in a more precise fashion than before. It's just more precise. It is all it is. So it's just a new generation of precision of human beings manipulating fire and heat.
What's funny, Dan, is like you mentioned continuous R&D, and I think that just in my time, in my relationship with you and with Rationale, I mean, I've seen, I don't know, 4 or 5 different combis kind of come through the evolutionary kind of process out of Rationale. And every one has something that's friggin' amazing, And you have a far more intimate knowledge than I do. So my question to you is, what are those kind of like, aside from the invention of the combi, like way back in '73, like what are those like kind of watershed moments, like where like something happened, the combi Rationale did something, they put something into the multi-purpose function, they kind of blew your socks off, and you're like, holy shit, like this is just going to be a game changer. Like, I have mine, but like I'm curious what yours is.
Yeah, no, for sure. And and that's like an ongoing adventure, right? Like they're like, just like you, I've experienced many of those over the years, and we're still keeping our eyes and ears open because there's so much that's to come, right? But this one is not gonna be sort of like earth shattering, but I want to just put the word versatility out there because the fact of the matter is, it still amazes me every time I witness one piece of equipment deliver a crisp, or sort of like with air frying, or grill marks, something that you would need like a deep fryer or like a char broiler to be able to accomplish. But then that same piece of equipment will also delicately sous vide, or it poaches, or it'll air blanch, so it'll give me like a nice softening or brightening up of a green leafy vegetable without having to submerge it in liquid using low temperature steam. So just for me, the thing that gets me when I really think about it is the versatility. Just looking at this thing, a box underneath the hood that can have a range, such a wide range of capabilities in terms of cooking modalities, coming from the same place, from low temperature steam all the way, say, up to high temperature grilling with moisture or introduction or the removal of moisture to accomplish those things. And then I would say also, like, when I get out there with our customers in big settings like hotels and convention centers, and we're working on big projects, the other thing that really makes me go, wow, I'm so fortunate that I get to do this for a living, is, wow, I mean, when you're talking about delivering a volume production for a major, whether it's a banquet or a prepared foods production house for meal order in today's food service economy, well, it's like being able to deliver consistent quality, even cooking for that kind of volume with minimal effort. It's like having a reliable friend that's just kind of like doing day in, day out what it's supposed to be doing, like a good soldier. And so, I mean, that just is wild to me when I see that. It's, just being able to have that reliability.
Killer. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with Dan. Sorry, go ahead, Jamie. You can start.
So I love rationales. Again, I've been using them for years, and being on the pastry side of it, I feel like we might think that some of the features might be limited to what we can actually do. And I'm super curious if there's a favorite feature that you love showing pastry chefs, like something that we wouldn't think that a rationale could do, because we know it can like convection cook and steam. Yeah, that's great. But what's like really cool that you love showing us?
Well, actually, I'm so glad you asked that, because lately I've been on a quest to really work with more and more pastry chefs and learn from them, like, what their needs are, so that we can make sure that we're meeting them. I would say, I've taught a couple of classes recently for some faculty members of some pretty prestigious institutions, Johnson and Wales included, of course. And one of the things that I really love to show pastry chefs is rustic bread. Doing like just a really rustic sourdough with the development of the crust and the ear, as they say, and so on. So I got to give a shout out to one of our members of our corporate chef team, Mackay Wilson, because he's one of our newer members, and he's been really passionate about leading the charge about how to do really good quality, pro quality rustic bread in the Rationale. Because of course, like, Rationale is known for pastry, and the likes of Antonio Bashur, and working with like all kinds of fancy croissants and Danish, and and that's a given, right? Because of the precision humidity control for for pastry products. But being able to deliver like what say like people usually rely on a deck oven for, those really rustic style crusty breads, high temperature heat transfer and stoneware and all of that. So we don't yet have one of our like preset processes that do like a real rustic style bread. We do have one that does bread, baguettes, rolls, and they deliver beautiful, beautiful, consistent products. But it really does take a nuance of humidity control, step down of temperatures, step up of temperatures, to really develop that beautiful rustic ear that we're looking for on like a sourdough and or a Tuscan bread or something like that. So Mackay has, understanding the nuance of the capability of the Rationale, has created a multiple step manual program that delivers a perfect a rustic style bread. And it's really just understanding, well, what are the capabilities of the mechanics of this technology? And then if there isn't like a program or a preset that someone else has developed already, let's develop a new one. And that's why I love talking about rustic bread, because it's something that a lot of chefs say you can't do in a Rationale, and we
Yeah.
absolutely prove them wrong.
That's really cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see that, and hopefully we get to play with it at Johnson and Wales, so we can see what that's like and like compare it to a deck oven. That's really cool.
100% going to use that in my class. You need to send me that program because, I teach a class where culinary students, not necessarily with a focus on bread, are making bread regularly. So this is exactly where I feel Rationale supports. It's doing the work of the pastry chef, but perhaps for the more savory minded chef to help make that product more consistent. So send me that code. Dan, my question to you though is, let's say, I know you travel a lot You said your goal over the holidays was not to travel, and I think you still did. You're all over the country. You're talking with different chefs from different schools, Johnson and Wales, and the like. How often do you hear feedback from educators that then trickles its way up to actual R&D innovation? Has there ever been something that has come from the masses that, is that how Rationale works? Do they listen to the customers and that's how they create, or is it just a team kind of thinking on their own?
Sure. Actually, it's one of our most important objectives, right? We're in the business of providing providing maximum customer benefit. We like to be close to our customers. There's a lot of products that we manufacture that are a direct result of that. So one of them would be the Vario smoker. When I started with Rationale, we didn't have a smoking accessory or attachment, and now we do. And of course, there are many people that contributed to that, but it's really a lot of the North American customers that have an affinity and a love for barbecue style, and also have witnessed the great results of doing low temperature roasting in the Rationale. So prime ribs and short ribs and things that involve a little bit of humidity to maximize yield. So we had a lot of requests, in the early years when we were introducing Rationale in North America, can we smoke in this thing, right? Because if I can deliver like a really moist end result on a product, I would have to first smoke it separately and then transfer it. And wow, wouldn't it be cool if blah, 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 and this could also smoke. So now we have that option with the Vario smoker. And I love working with it. In the more recent development of the Vario smoker, sort of the newer generation of it, we've also integrated the smoke. The first generation of it was simply you plug it in. It had a transformer box, and it manually billowed out some smoke into the cabinet. The new generation of the Vario smoker actually is programmable through the operation, through the system, and so you can smoke and braise, you can low temp roast and smoke, and integrate smoke into various, for example, overnight functions that help automate the process. And so I love that. That's one of the innovations that came from listening to the customer. Another one is the Diamond and Grill grid. It's a cross hatch pattern. Simple thing. We used to the original version of our grill, the combi grill, as we called it, had singular slats, like a conventional home barbecue, or a grill in a restaurant. And when you're working a line and you're working a pair of tongs, and you can easily just flip the steak around and make your crosshatch pattern when you're grilling on a conventional grill. But if you're doing 500, petite filet mignons for a banquet, you want to be able to pop it in, have the grill marks, pull it out, and you don't want to have to flip all 500 pieces, because the whole idea is that the combi can grill without having to stand there and over a super heated element, sweating with a pair of tongs. So now with the crosshatch pattern, which was a request from a lot of our chef customers, you're able to make grill marks without having to flip the steak and so on. There's so many others like that. And a lot of our processes as well, like the rustic bread one, right? That's something that would be that the reason why we're working on that, is because customers ask us for it. Okay, there's a muffin button that I love. Getting back to pastry for a minute and cool things to do with pastry chefs. I love showing pastry chefs how to work with our intelligence. So we didn't always have this, but there's a muffin process, a muffin program that we developed for the USA, North American market, because it's something that people sell a lot of here and produce a lot of. And now there's a program for muffins that you can either bake by time and temperature, or you can use the probe and bake by sensor. So I love doing that with pastry chefs because it's so cool. You just take the muffin batter and you put it into the different, like a mold, a muffin mold, and then you set it with the probe, and the unit will determine the doneness according to the thermocouples, rather than just setting traditionally time and temperature, which you can also do if you like. So I love doing that kind of stuff.
That's really cool, and I think coming from a restaurant background, which I have, knowing that I might not have space for a deck oven, a convection oven, and everything like a smoker or a steamer, like everything, like knowing that you could do all of that in one is really cool, and it's very space saving. And when you were talking about the smoker, I, again, being a pastry chef, I like smoked pastry items, like a smoked ice cream base, a smoked chocolate cake, a smoked chocolate mousse. And I know some of those are cold processed. Does the smoker allow for pastry applications, or is it only like long applications? Like you were talking about an overnight smoke or a braise or a roast. Like, can you do quick smoking in there or cold smoking too?
Sure it does. Sure it does. I did a smoked kale salad in there one time. That was pretty good. We do things like smoked salt and things like that. And smoked ice cream base would not be a problem. The minimum temperature in the rationale is 86 degrees. But you can actually put some pans of ice. That's the minimum setting, right? But you can put pans of ice in the cabinet to help chill the cabinet down if you need to. So you can really just smoke anything. So just basic smoke without heat would just be the lowest temperature setting. And then what you do is you put it, you want to make sure that it's a closed cabinet to keep the smoke in. And so what you do is you set the humidity setting at 100%, which means that 100% of the humidity or the smoke is remaining with the flap closed. And that way you can get the most amount of smoke flavor transfer in the shortest amount of time. But yes, you could totally do ice cream base, and that would be fun. We should try that sometime. I love that.
Yeah, I love a smoked vanilla ice cream. It's so tasty and it makes a nice like s'more style dessert. Very cool.
Mm-hmm. So, Dan, I have a question for you, and maybe you can or can't answer this, but clearly you listen to your customers. It has informed innovation within Rationale, obviously bettering the industry. Has there been something that, it's been a cool idea, but it just hasn't come to fruition yet? Like, is there something that, would be really cool that just unfortunately, we're not there yet? Is there something that Rationale, or are they working on something that could really, like, what's the next thing? What's coming out in the future?
Yeah, well, for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about the iVario for a moment. So the Rationale is famous for inventing the combi, and obviously our combi is our biggest seller in the market. But in 2020, we launched a new type of multifunctional cooking appliance, which is based on surface contact heat and submersion cooking. Because if you think about the combi, it's based on cooking with air, whether it's dry air as an oven or moist air as a steamer, or any combination thereof, right, of moist and dry air. But there are some things that we want to do with like surface contact heat, where the food is like on like a plancha type of thing, or where you can submerge with different types of liquid in order to braise and cook that way, right? A boil or deep fry. So that's how the iVario became more and more in demand, because once people sort of began to see the multifunctional capabilities and the versatility that you can get from working in combi, then they tried to do as much as they could with the combi, and then that's when you start to realize, oh, well, it really would be nice if it could do submersion, right, or if it could do plancha style. So now we can do that, and that is done. We do it with the iVario, and it's like imagine like a tilt skillet, which can have the same operating system, same programmability, customizations that the combi has, that the iCombi Pro has, except that it is like a pan base with walls, like a tilt skillet. And there's a new smaller version that's like a split pan base, which I think is ideal for a lot of restaurants, and I love it for teaching kitchens, because you can take what would be a traditional tilt skillet. Imagine you split it and you put the control panel in the middle, and now you have two smaller pan bases that you can do smaller projects with. Whereas before, all those types of projects would happen in big stock pots, where you don't have quite the same temperature control, quite the same capability of precision. And we're accomplishing that, talking about what's new and next, Matt. What allows all of that to happen is really new and fresh. It's a digitally controlled ceramic heating tile that works underneath the pan base of the Rationale, so that you don't have, like, gone are the days of like hot spots and cold spots like you would have like in a conventional griddle or a conventional tilt skillet, because you have these really precise, really fast ceramic heating tiles. It's sort of akin to induction, but it's not exactly. But it can, for example, boil 5 gallons of water in about 6 to 8 minutes, compared to 5 gallons in a conventional stock pot. Even with a high BTU 6-burner range, it would take about 22 to 27 minutes comparatively. So it's just a huge advancement. And that just launched in North America in 2020. So we're seeing where that's going to take us, and sort of what is the next rendition of the iVario, and how can we take this new technology based on submersion and contact cooking and have it fit our customers' needs in different applications, different segments in the industry. And so that's a huge focus for us right now. And as well, just last year, we launched the iHexagon, you may have heard. So this is really, really hot off the press. And the iHexagon is our iCombi Pro with microwave capability, but it's way more than that. So it's the first fully functioning combi oven, or combi steamer, as we lovingly refer to it in Europe. Combi oven or combi steamer with microwave as well. So being able to incorporate the 3 types of heat, basically dry heat elements, or whether it's electric or gas. Of course, the iHexagon is only available in electric. And so it's developed to be extremely precise, which is one of the reasons why it has to be an electric. And then also combining heat, steam, and now microwave. So that it resolves a lot of issues. Number one, it has a glass door. So unlike a lot of microwaves, like speed ovens and the like, you can actually see what's going on inside. Number two, it has the iProduction Manager, which is the multitasking tool that you're familiar with, Matt, where you can do different things on different levels. You can do that with the addition of microwave. So imagine a little sandwich shop, or like a little QSR, a little, something that's in the fast segment that requires, where speed of service is of utmost importance to the operator. You can now have a piece of technology that delivers the quality of a combi, but with 30% faster cooking times.
That is amazing. That's amazing. And I know that I just got in my kitchen a new iVario, the split one you're talking about. So I am overly excited to play around with that. I'm sure I'm going to call you on the chef hotline because I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And I know we're out of time, but Dan Lessem, this was amazing. Thank you for sharing the story of
Yes.
Rationale, all the amazing things they've done over the last 50 plus years. And we'll have to have you back to talk about how you guys are continuing to innovate. So thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.